Without a doubt, there was a church and a rum shop on almost every corner in Barbados. Whether they were opposite, parallel, or perpendicular to each other, there were. It was as though God said, let there be a church, and a rum shop came along. Nevertheless, they both coexisted amicably. They both had their members, their supporters, and their fans. The older women tended to gravitate towards the church. They took their young kids, anybody else's young kids, their young daughters, and anybody else's young daughters to the church with them. The older men gravitated towards the rum shop. The young men had the privilege and the opportunity to hang out under the streetlights, go wherever they wanted, do whatever they wanted. It was a gender bias, unfair socialization process. Now, don't get me wrong, not that the young boys didn't have anything to do. They were responsible for like bringing in the sheep, looking after the cows and things like that. But it's just that they had so much more freedom than we, the girls, and that was not fair. The women were involved in the church and they still had other duties. So though the rum shop was like a social gathering for the men, it was more like work for the women. Most women would buy their weekly groceries in Bridgetown, but some women shopped locally. Sometimes during the week, you would run out of items and the young girls would have the chore of going to the shop for those items. You walked in and the first thing that you would notice was the scale sitting right there, bright red, like fire red, sitting there. You'd walk into all the stairs. You would have rehearsed your list. A pound of sugar, a pound of flour, a pound of sugar, 2 ounces of butter, mellow cream, not palm tree, a gill of lard oil, 2 pints of kerosene oil. You had it done pat. But then you walked in and everybody would be staring at you. Oh my gosh, the most uncomfortable stares. You'd forget your list. You'd start saying, oh, I come for a pint of sugar, an ounce of, all mixed up. But eventually you'll pull the list out of your pocket and you would call. Now they had candies on the side, of course, to distract you, to tempt you to spend the money and other things. But your parents at home had already calculated what everything would cost and the change you should be bringing back. So you had to shop as you were told. You walked into the store, the shop, you called for your pound of flour. They would take it out and they would wait on paper. It used to be brown paper, but I don't have any brown paper. Okay, so most of the times the shopkeeper would have a good estimate of what a pound of flour would be. So you see the weights here, right here. You see the poise here. That makes 16 ounces 1 pound. So if you called for 16 ounces or a pound, he would adjust this. Now rumor has it that a lot of the poise would be at 14 ounces. So when you walked away thinking you had a pound, you only had 14 ounces. All right. So they would weigh this thing out, take it off the scale pan, and they would fold it, something like this, put it in the bag, and away you go. There was also the knack. For instance, you'd go call for some cheese, 2 ounces of cheese or 3 ounces of cheese. There was a shopkeeper who had the knack. He would go to the location of the cheese, sliced it, and bam, bam, throw it on that scale pan. And the scale pan would bounce up and down. I guess it was velocity plus distance plus something. So you would go home thinking you had like a good chunk of cheese. You got home, man, you can see the other side of the world through that cheese. It was just the way he would throw it like this scale pan. It's what my grandfather called trick of the trades. So that was basically the shop for the women. You know, sometimes you'd walk into the shop and you'd find out your ancestry through gossip. You know, you'd hear, oh, that girl looks everything like this one. And that's sometimes how you found out who was related to you. So going to the shop was terrifying, but yet interesting. And the men, like I said, the shop was something completely different for the men. The rum shop was the hub, the nucleus of the community. The men made it their domain. You see, it was the Aristotles, the Chaucers, the Shakespeares, the Websters, the Oxfords that frequented the rum shop. They would argue all day about anything under the sun. They argued politics, who was the best cricketer on earth. They argued religion. Anything that was arguable, they would argue about. Sometimes these arguments would break out into fights. But by the end of the night, the men would have made up. Not like us women who hold on to grudges forever. They would make up, they would have some more drinks, and then they would swagger home, walk home, meander home. On the way home, full of grog, they would start singing sometimes, Lord, I would own thy tender care. And something, something. If they didn't know the words, they made them up. One guy would be swinging from side to side, and his song was, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me. Oh. They sang in falsetto, tenor, but they lived their lives. Sometimes on your way from school, they would hook you into the shop and challenge you to spell a big word. One of their favorites was Mississippi. So you would walk up and you'd, okay, M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-I. If you got it wrong, they would tell you you were wasting your parents' money. If you got it right, they would pat you on the shoulder and say, oh man, you're bright as shite. The men did not only argue. The shop was a home away from home. They played dominoes, cards. They had corned beef and biscuits. You see the key here? If this key is lost, it's so difficult to open a tin of corned beef. So they had a life in the shop that was away from home. They had a variety of rums. This was like a ginger ale. Somebody wasn't feeling well, they'd open this bottle of ginger ale, give them some of it. Sometimes, like I said, they got into fights. They would shake this up and spray it on the fighters, and that would cause the fights to stop. Coke, it was the number one chaser. Rum and Coke. The men use it all the time. I believe Coke was the number one seller in Barbados. I have some drinks here I've never seen. Ebony, I guess this goes way back. Banks, there's a Tiger Malt label on here. I guess that was way back. There is also a Jubilee Stout. Never heard of that. These are all compliments of my uncle, who, as you can see, has his bar well stocked. The shot glasses. The shopkeeper provided the shot glasses. He would wash them, dry them, and have them on the counter. My grandfather was notorious for walking with his own glass. I still have that glass to this day. There were openers to open all the drinks. It was like the shop, the rum shop, was a home away from home. So, here's to the life in the rum shop. Down the hatch and up the gap. Gotcha. that was sugar water. Until next time, see you up the gap.